Hi, this is Jerry Mathers from Leave It to Beaver, and this is the Then Is Now podcast.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
What kind of a sick school is this?
Uh-oh, don't know!
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
You got spunk. I hate spunk.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Oh, righty then.
How you doing?
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Say hello to my little friend!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What are you people? On dope?
Stop whining.
I got a crap on deck that could choke a donkey.
Who is your daddy?
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Can I do that?
I'll be back.
A dynamite! Show me the money!
Don't! Up your nose with your rubber hose.
A what?
I'm sailing! I'm sailing!
Groovy.
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Is looking at you, kid.
We got no food, we got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off!
Come to the coast, we get together, have a few laughs.
Hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey!
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
I love it when a plan comes together.
What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
We're on a mission from God.
Hello and welcome to another fun-filled episode of Then Is Now podcast. I am your host, Re-Gor, and my co-host, Chris Esper, unfortunately could not be here again today due to a last-minute work emergency, so it's just me today. Yay. All right, so folks, I just want to take this opportunity to remind you guys, if you haven't heard about this, we've got a monthly live streaming show called Fright Lounge, in which my co-host Bill Van Ryn from Groovy Doom and the Drive-In Double Feature discuss all horror media. So whether you're a seasoned horror fan or just aren't sure if you want to get into horror, although you've probably watched horror and never even knew it, Silence of the Lambs, I'm looking right at you, then this is the show for you. We've also opened up another lounge. Award-winning blogger Robert Manell joins me on our new podcast, The Cult Movie Lounge, in which we discuss all cult movies all the time. It's great fun and will expose you to films, directors, actors, and more that you may not have heard of, but you'll enjoy. Both shows have pages on Facebook and can also be found at our website, havenpodcasts.com, and the links will be in the show notes of this episode, so check them out. Okay, folks, we've got an interesting guest for you today. He's a modern musician, but his music harkens back to the 80s and has a great retro vibe to it, and that's the kind of stuff we here at Then Is Now podcast really enjoy. So sit back and get ready to discover some music that you'll most likely love. Class is in session.
I have a bad feeling about this.
How could I possibly be expected to handle school on a day like this?
Food fight!
Hey, you in my class?
I am today.
I think you should consider transferring to shop class. Woo! Now, very few students are severely injured in shop class.
Bueller.
When you were in school,
Bueller.
did you ever cut class?
Bueller.
Yeah, I guess I did. Sure, most kids cut classes.
Good, sign this. He's sick.
I get so lonely when I hear that third attendance bell ring and all my kids are not here.
7 years of college down the drain.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You lack discipline.
As long as I'm here, there will be no grades or gold stars or demerits. We're gonna have recess all the time.
Woo! Go, play, and have fun now.
Okay, folks, our guest today is known as the Prince Regent of EDM, or electronic dance music. Yes, I actually had to look that up. In 2019, he had multiple feature roles in 2 Showtime TV shows, Work in Progress and The Chi, Seasons 1 and 2. In 2021, he was nominated for a Chicago Music Award due to his multi-platinum 3rd single on Spotify, So Below, from 2020. As a multi-hyphenate creator, our guest bounces from one medium to another, a fusion of R&B, pop, and house sounds. His music transports the listener into an imaginary realm while reinventing the EDM sound. In Tales from the Sixth Dimension, he incorporates his single Sixth Dimension into a sci-fi horror format. In January 2022, he launched the Access Lake Shore Drive podcast on Spotify. It was an instant hit with guests as wide and diverse as Mark Holton, La Bouche, Fred Hampton, and Inaya Day. The show wrapped production on Season 1 in August and has recently reached 2.9 million global streams on Spotify, showing no sign of slowing down. The Prince Regent debuted his album New Jack City and New Jack City 2 Life Symbol EP, both in August of 2021, followed by his mobile and PC game New Jack City that same year. His new remix album, New Jack City 3, All Mixed Up, was released in August of this year and is doing insanely well. He's also got a new sci-fi anthology series called Tales from the Sixth Dimension, which will premiere on WSBC 1240 AM Chicago on October 7th of this year, just in time for Halloween. The show will star Dantès Alexander and Ashley Harris of Work in Progress. His production company, Dwarf Planet Media, is in talks with renowned horror actor Mark Holton to potentially provide narration. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Chicago Music Award nominee, Dantès Alexander, Prince Regent of EDM. Glad you could join us, man.
Wow, thank you. When you say all of those things, it certainly doesn't feel like I've done all those things, and it's a mouthful. But thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks.
So usually when we have a new guest on the show, the first thing we do is ask them, how did you get onto the path to where you are now?
Oh, wow. Okay, so you just go for the gullet immediately. Okay,
immediately,
Roger.
Yep.
I can appreciate that. Well, it depends on how much time we have, No, I'm just kidding. Well, to be honest with you, I'm going to try and sum it up and hit the important parts and be truthful and honest as much as I like to. Sure. So nothing obviously happens overnight. I grew up in the system, so I was awarded the state for the first 15 years of my life. Actually, I was awarded the state, and every year we would put on insanely massive productions for this entire campus full of kids, rowdy kids from ages, 5 all the way up to 18, girls and boys. So think of it like college before college, if you will.
Right.
So we entertained everybody from Chris Zorch from Chicago Bears, Dennis Rodman, Tiger Woods. It was a really, excuse my language, it was a really fucked up childhood, but it was a great childhood. Can I say that on this show?
Absolutely. In fact, we have a swearing minimum quota, so.
Okay. But, so that was the first half of it. And then, of course, like everybody else, in your 20s, you bump your head around and on the wall and you try and figure out what the heck you're doing and where you're going. Did some acting, really, really successful in that. But, there's always that passion that we always have, right? So,
yeah.
And just decided to go for it, man. Right out the gate, I sort of had some success with my first single, which was Killer, the original Killer, which was back in 2018, and that about 300,000 streams on that. And then my second single, So Below, which is the single that really actually blew it through the roof for me. It's sort of become my signature song that has gone on to be double platinum on Spotify, garnered me a Chicago Music Award nomination. And in the midst of, doing all of that stuff, I was still on Showtime, doing Work in Progress, which is, a very, very funny show, season 1. And then The Shy, you said The Chi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That would be a totally dope show, too. That's a great show. Really, really, really. But The Shy. So, yeah, amazing, amazing ride. grateful, very, very grateful, and just excited and very, very happy to just to do what I like to do, I guess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're very talented. And your title is the Prince Regent of EDM. Where did that come from?
So that title actually came from the LA Times Now. I wish I could make it more mystic than what it is, but the title came from the LA Times Now. There was an article that they did on me last year in 2021. And ever since then, I've just sort of been called that from the press and my fans. And heavy is the head that wears the crown, certainly, but I'm up for the challenge of trying to maintain at least what I believe is a good representation of that.
Nice. So I just wanted to backtrack just a little bit. I wanted to ask you, what was it like? How did you get involved in working on the 2 Showtime series?
So I actually worked with a very sweet casting director here in Chicago by the name of Darlene. I'm not going to give out her last name because she'll shoot me. She will shoot me. You know how these things go. So I actually worked with her for many, many years, not just on those 2 projects. Those were the first projects where people actually got to say, "Oh my God, look, hey, there's Dantès. We see him in the background. That's great." And then being able to speak and doing all that. But I worked with her for many, many years. And originally when I started working on Work in Progress, I was actually just supposed to be there for, I believe, a day it was. And it just sort of morphed into this really fun month-long experience. So I got to become the core. Core is the term that, is used for actors, background actors, featured extras who have sustainable work, which means a big paycheck, right? That's what everybody wants, right?
Right.
That was the first job that I've ever had, and I'm confessing this to you in this interview. The first job that I've actually had a steady paycheck on, and it was great. It was wonderful. Usually, when you get started, you hope and you pray that you can just get 1 or 2 days, and to go from doing that into speaking, and it was marvelous. So she had me there, and then she also had me on The Chi. And The Chi actually is really, really, really good story. It's a true to life sort of story about inner city Chicago, more specifically like 63rd Street. I'm from Chicago. I don't really walk down a lot of these streets anymore because I can't. But
because of what, recognition?
Well, that and also getting robbed. I do wear a lot of jewelry and and chains and rings and all of those things, and we certainly don't want to get robbed. We work very hard for those things, so we are aware. You must be aware of these things. Yes. Things do change, and you do have to live like you've sort of changed, and I have. But sometimes I can sneak indiscriminately somewhere. I was speaking with LaBouche a couple of nights ago, and he was asking me, he was like, "Oh, so how did that go?" And I said, "Oh, it was fabulous. I had on my shades and was on the back of the bus like a grifter, and no one recognized me. It was wonderful." So yeah, but that's how that happened. I want to give a very special thank you to Miss Darlene. She's a local casting legend and genius here in Chicago. Everybody goes to her. I worked not only on those 2 projects with her, but actually started as an extra like everybody else, right? Ooh, big shot. The first project that I actually did was Divergent. Do you remember that project? Way back in, I believe it was like 2007.
Divergent. Refresh me. It sounds familiar.
So there were different factions. I was in the Dauntless faction. Think of it as Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Hunger Games before Hunger Games. So think of it, but all of that wrapped into one.
Right.
So this was 2007. So this was around the time when Twilight and all of that stuff was big. So I've been in it for a very long time. It's just everything just seems like it happened overnight when I've just been working a very long time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And, I have to say, when we first connected and started talking about having you on the show, I really loved your music. I mean, what I love about it is the retro vibe, and I just, it's got that, I can't even describe it. It's got this quality that, for me personally, I'm an old dude, and I don't care for music after 1990. But with a handful of exceptions, Daft Punk being one of them, I discovered them a few years ago. And then now your music has come along, and I really dig it. I think it's great. What was your inspiration to start making these songs?
Well, the New Jack City project, I'm still in the New Jack City era. As you just, let our listeners know, I just released part 3 almost a month ago now. It's doing very well. It really, the first project is sort of, for me personally, it has become sort of my opus. I'm honestly scared that I will not be able to top that, just because it is such a very personal record for me. It's a concept record, but it also is a very personal record. New Jack City is Chicago. And the project basically talks about everything that one would experience coming through concrete and blossoming into a person who can shape the world around them into a better place. And as generic and as Michael Jackson-y as that sounds, it really became that. New Jack City, the theme song, then the title track of that, Lakeshore Drive, riding down 79th, it's Friday night, all the girls are looking right. And the next verse, it goes in and says, Lakeshore Drive, exiting on 69th, they're shooting and killing all the kids in the night. So I'm essentially talking about all of the madness that's going on, all of the killing and all of the madness that goes on that we've all become desensitized to, because we are so connected to the media. It's like, oh my God, a gunshot. Oop, let's just continue partying.
Right.
I'm not trying to make light of the situation here,
no.
but this is the reality of most people who live in major cities, be it Chicago, be it New York, be it Tokyo, be it London, be it wherever you may call yourself. There is some version of New Jack City where we all live, where we all know.
Right.
What we don't know often is the stories from that, and I just happen to be, a person who was, blessed to have been born of both environments, to have been saved of the environment, but to also be able to walk through the environment and to observe it and to blend in and to understand what it is like to, be, flat broke and not have any money and say, oh man, I got to do something really bad today in order to, get some money, but these are things that people realistically deal with, Roger.
Oh yeah.
So that was, New Jack City. So that's the whole entire spin on that. There also is talk of God. Truthfully, You're the One, Skywriter, the original version of that, is essentially a love song to God.
Oh, okay.
When you're walking the streets and you're trying to live your life, you have to take God with you any and every way that you can. And for me, that was just, composing a love letter, to him. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen out there. I didn't write that to anyone, specifically man or woman. So I don't want to crush anyone's, anyone's dreams there.
You don't let anyone down,
Yeah. And the Sixth Dimension is a record that I was fortunate enough to be able to sample the Fifth Dimension. I'd also like to really quickly give a very special shout out to Miss Melba Moore, who was a cast member in the original Hair version.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I was privileged to be able to sample the Fifth Dimension. So you see that connection.
Yes.
There.
Oh, yeah.
She's a very, very sweet woman as well. But that record for me is everything really isn't a personal record. I wrote that record watching The Matrix. Do you remember the Matrix?
Oh, yeah.
Roger.
Yeah.
The first. Well, I'm sorry, not the first. It was the second one where Morpheus was speaking to the crowd on the rock, right, giving the big Jesus inspired, And I said, that's a really good feeling. Do you remember? Then they started dancing, and there was like this orgy of spirits, and that's really what it was. There was no physicality; it was just spirits. So I said, wow, what can I do to encompass that Blade Runner Matrix feeling? And I was very happy with the results of that. So that's sort of why you have that distorted tone, and it's very Blade Runner inspired.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's very Blade Runner inspired. I'm a very retro guy, as you know, Roger. Right. I think that's what makes us special. Is we are unafraid to go to the past, to find inspiration in the present. And I think for any creator in any field, I think the past is just as important as now. And, we really have to be respectful of all of those things and create something original, from, something that a new generation may or may not have heard of.
Right, right. And I love the fact that you were able to sample Age of Aquarius. That's among my favorite songs. So that really, like, right off the bat caught my attention. I went, ooh, I like this. And then it just went on and got even awesomer or more awesome.
Yes. That is one of my favorite songs. I think that's like a deep catalog favorite of mine.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. Yeah, I love it.
And one other thing I wanted to mention too, for me personally, I love the fact in your songs you sing. You're not rapping. I'm an oldster. I'm not a fan of rap. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with rap. I think, if people enjoy it, that's great. It's just not my bag. But I was listening to him like at the very beginning when you first sent him to me, and I'm like, wow, he's actually singing. I love this,
Well, man, what can I say? I was blessed to grow up around, a lot of people who listen to a lot of real music. Some of my earliest memories are, being in like a 13-passenger van, a maroon one specifically, with 13 other screaming kids, listening to 100-page CD book of everything from, and I mean singles from every spectrum of the of the broad of the broadband there, from listening to Queen, Michael Jackson, my God, Madonna, U2, just such a diverse God, man, just such a diverse catalog that these people had, so I don't want to date myself, but I did say CDs. And it's crazy when you say that, right? Because I was just looking at Michael Jackson. Can you believe that it's been 40 years since Thriller came out?
Oh my
and
God.
I said, isn't that crazy, Roger? And I said, if Thriller is going to be 40 soon, how old am I going to be?
Right. Oh my God! Talk about old. We're as a quick tangent here. We're moving. My wife and I were moving to another house, and just yesterday, I lugged about 5 or 6 large boxes of vinyl records, and I'm like, oh, I forgot how heavy these things were.
They're so heavy. But that being of that generation, I think I probably am the last generation to grow up where music was still sort of a tangible thing, because we had the CDs.
Right.
To me, that's more important because I own that. And it's even more important to me now as a creator, to support and to own, because when you buy something that is your product, you own that. You can skip that. You can replay it a million times. You can hear the quality, the way that it was intended to be heard. I don't like listening to music, especially my music. It's awful to listen to it on Spotify. Oops, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Spotify, I love you so much. You've been so great to us. Apple. Apple has lossless quality, which is free for all of its users. So that's the closest thing that kids can get to what an original CD or vinyl record sounds like, you know? Yeah.
Well, that's just it too. And when you have the vinyl album, you've got the liner notes on it. And granted, they had them on CDs as well, which I also have a shit ton of CDs, but you kind of need a microscope or a magnifying glass to read the liner notes in those. With the vinyl record, it's big and tactile and, it's like a book. Yeah, ebooks are cool, but there's nothing like holding a book in your hand. So then if you go, oh, wait a minute, what was that again? You can easily flip back the pages, where when it's on a computer or a tablet, it's not so easy,
And that's so true, because I have memories now as we're sitting here speaking of this. I have called as a child, and this is, and this is important, I think, for all of our listeners, children and adult alike. Here we are 20 years later, and as a child, I called Motown Records as a child and listened to Stevie Wonder and India Ari Serenade, the CEO of Motown. Okay. And now here I am 20 years later doing music and being loved and adored and all of these things. So things do happen if we make them happen. And it's very important for everybody, irregardless of how old you are, to continue to believe in your dreams. And I really, really pride myself on trying to preserve some of the traditional factors of this business. And you probably have noticed that I have not saturated my social media with vain photos of myself and things like that, because that takes away from the mystery. I'm old school. You didn't see everything that was done behind the camera. You picked up the liner notes if you wanted to learn who played what, who did what.
Right.
And that takes away from the mystery. If I give you all of the cookies, you're not going to want to drink the milk.
Right.
So that makes me, at least in this day and age, I feel like a rare breed. And I also learned that from Daft Punk as well. Shout out to, those boys as well over in France. Sometimes less is more. And in this day and age, trying to be tangible when necessary is most important.
Right.
Most important. Social media has, I know we've gone completely to the right, but social media is causing some serious detriment to the kids that are coming up now after me. I feel bad for those kids. Could you imagine going to high school, dude, and having like could you imagine how horrible that was? They called me all types of horrible names and crap in high school. Could you imagine somebody recording that and putting it on social media?
Yeah, no, that would be awful. I couldn't imagine it.
Oh my goodness, So, I try to, be very realistic. I don't think it's responsible as entertainers to promote something that sometimes may be unattainable to your audience. And being, dressed in realism is very important to me. And it's very important to me. I'm sorry. Does that make me sound old?
No, not at all.
Okay, cool.
That's amazing. Now, I just wanted to bring up a couple quick things here. Of course, the song Options. I love it because it's got that Nintendo feel, but it's very minimalist.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciated that because it made me listen all the way to the end.
Yay! Yay! I love that.
That's great. And the other song I wanted to ask you about, in Killer, at the very beginning, is that a sample of Tom Hiddleston from Only Lovers Left Alive?
It's the loneliness that's the killer.
Yeah.
No, that's me.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It sounds just like Tom Hiddleston.
Thank you so much, Roger. I really appreciate you for taking this time, this evening, taking your time today on Then Is Now podcast with, me, of course, your Prince Regent, Dantès Alexander, and Mr. Roger Fräulein. Did I pronounce that correctly, sir? I'm so sorry.
No.
Oh, dear goodness. Well, perhaps we will have our jam sandwiches and tea now.
There you go. Wow, that's amazing. Because I really thought it was Tom Hiddleston.
No. Fortunately, I've spent a lifetime around a microphone, as you can tell.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it difficult to come up with a piece of music that you haven't, or that hasn't been done before, I should say?
Yeah, yeah. Because I was looking at some stuff today. You think you're being original, and you do a deep search, and you're like, oh, it's been done before. But for me, I think, Roger, you sort of squared into who I am, as an artist. If why am I doing it, and why are we doing it if it's been done before, right? That was the reason why we came out with the video game. How often do you hear artists releasing video games? I'm not interested in being normal. It doesn't excite me. There has to be something else to make people want to say, oh my God, I gotta have it. I gotta listen to it, because it's all cohesive. And I don't want to be unauthentic also either. I like to write about things and perspectives that I live, and that most people live. I'm sure you've probably noticed that, when I release projects, I like to release, short projects between 8 and 14 minutes. That's because I want people to listen to it continuously. All of the interludes and all of the songs, everything is very strategic. I don't think I can actually write a project or a song that can't connect to something else. It's almost impossible,
right?
Because I see things in the broader spectrum, and I always try and build out these worlds where I can continue to venture and stay in. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like for me personally, you just made me think of how everything reminds me of some kind of a movie or TV quote, to the point where I drive my wife crazy. But going all the way back and obscure as can be, and I even say them to myself, but it's like you got that connection and building that own world in your head. I love that.
Yeah. And it's a very important world, because the idea always starts as just a seed, right? And then it just blossoms as you water it, and you water it, and you water it, and you water it. Music is a very audio. Let's just be frank. I'm not going to say music, because that takes away from the audio art period. I'm going to say audio. I'm an audiophile. I believe you are an audiophile.
Oh yeah.
Audio is a very powerful format. It is a very powerful tool, and it must be used responsibly. Great power comes great responsibility. Seriously, Future, for example, he's a rapper. You know who Future is. He said that most of his listeners thinks that all he does is Percocet and Molly, all day long. But you would think that, right? Because that's what he's rapping about 24/7. But the truth could be stranger than fiction, because he doesn't.
Right.
And that's why we have to be careful as creators to put out things that are not going to be harmful. But like I sound like such an elder statesman, don't I? But
You're speaking our language here, man. You're speaking our language.
I believe that that's very important, for me. My manifesto, for all of these projects, that tie all of these, musical projects together, is gun violence, God, children, and having a good time. That's, what my manifesto is, between all of those albums. And very few of the songs are actually about having a good time. But, I can make a party record, So Below,
Yep.
That's my thriller. I don't think I'll ever be able to, I won't ever be able to top that, and it's okay. I've accepted that, right. The first New Jack City project, has been streamed. I was just looking at the numbers on Spotify. I am hovering at old school gold. You know what that means? 500K.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Very, very proud of that. I don't think it would have been possible without, having a lot of help. I had a lot of help, with that. So I'm just very, very grateful. Very, very grateful. And the nostalgic, feeling and vibe, for me, is who I am. I don't think I have to pretend to be something, because I am. It's easy to be who you are, right? When you don't have to pretend. I've never been afraid or unashamed of, who I am. And I'm sure I probably, probably frighten some people, and I'm sure I probably, am loved by some people. But that's been sort of a hard thing to get used to, is just when you start, looking at, comments and you become a public figure and you start seeing the comments of what people say, and, it can be hurtful at times, being honest. But
yeah.
I've had some growing pains. Roger. I've had some growing pains, because sometimes you want to, go back and be like, bleep, 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 but,
so true.
You say, no, I'm going to take the dignified route.
Right. Oh my God.
So I turned off my comments.
Oh man. So, as we start to wrap things up here, you mentioned audio and how important audio is. So that being said, can you kind of briefly tell us about Tales from the Sixth Dimension and what that's all about?
Oh man, has it been 30 minutes already?
Yeah, I know. It went by fast.
Oh wow. Well, Tales from the Sixth Dimension is a sci-fi horror anthology show based off of my single Sixth Dimension. So it is a combination of the X-Files, the Outer Limits, Freaky Links, a mixture of all of those things, but more importantly, the Twilight Zone.
Nice.
I've tried to stay true to the aesthetic, and you know what that aesthetic is, man.
Mm-hmm.
What always made all of those stories so great, even Night Gallery, was you could go in the other room and you could start cooking or doing something else, and you could still follow the story because of why? The audio.
Right.
And yes. See, we're here. Oh, I love you, bro. Right. And when, and it's so powerful because you think about that. You say, holy cow. Oh my God. They were able to tell this amazing story with no special effects, only audio and the most simplest of camera tricks. That's
right.
Powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And there are a lot of pushes. Rather, there are a lot of pushes or pushing. There's a lot of pushing, rather, to move the podcast format to visual. And I'm not against that, but I also want to, remind people that podcast is and always was audio only.
Right.
And there ain't no getting around that, kids. So, everybody wants to, have a TV show and all of these things. But the truth is there's nothing wrong with audio, and there's nothing wrong with radio. I would encourage everybody to embrace the traditional formats and sounds. You may be surprised with what you come out with. Ooh, it's been around for so long, right?
Right.
We have to respect these art forms. And, podcasters are what? Cousins to what? Broadcasters.
Right.
So this is, a very serious business now. This is no longer, just, somebody who is interviewing, the people, up the block. These are people who, are interviewing, world-class figures. You've had, some amazing people on your show.
Yeah.
All of the other shows. But the point is that audio is a mistress to be respected. She is the original form of media, and she is to be respected. The problem is, though, is we're sort of not used to using those tools, because we're sort of in a place now where we're able to touch everything because we have our phones that we can touch and all of that stuff. So we forget about being able to go pick up an actual tape reel. Right. I just purchased a reel to reel recorder, so
nice.
my butt can go in my studio now and actually go put the tape on the reel.
That's awesome.
Because it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. How can you call yourself a master of your craft if you don't even know how to make fire in the simplest form.
Right. Right. That's a great analogy. That's awesome.
You know,
are you a fan of like the old time radio shows? Because they had a lot of horror and sci-fi.
Oh heck yeah!
Yeah.
Oh heck yeah, dude! Oh heck yeah! You know, and this is a homage to all of that. In my early, well, I'll be 30. Oh God, I can't believe it. I'll be 30 in March, but I am 30 years old, and I am a fan of, you know, Buck Rogers. How many 30-year-olds do you hear say Buck Rogers or talking about the Twilight Zone, Night Gallery,
right?
You know, all of that. You know, I loved all of that, and I lived for all of that. And it wasn't because, you know, my parents were listening to this stuff. It was just because you know, like you crate dig. You know, you got records, so you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You crate dig. You know, you're like, oh, you know, what is this? You know, like that's how I stumbled on, you know, the Buck Rogers show, the Ranger Bill show.
Yeah,
I was just, you know, fiddling through records. I'm like, oh my God, you know, not knowing that this is a whole, you know, show where there are complete, you know, sound effects, and it literally is a movie in audio form.
Right.
And that's the great thing, you know, about all of this, you know, about radio serials, you know, because, you know, they're flexible. You know, that very same radio serial can be transformed, you know, into a television show.
Right.
You know, so radio is still very important and is not to be underestimated. And audio period is not to be, you know, underestimated. I think the push from, you know, us to, you know, do more, you know, visual stuff is just because of, you know, we have, you know, apps like TikTok and, you know, and all that stuff. And I'm so grateful I'm not signed to a major label because, you know, my major label, you know, I love being independent because my poor major label counterparts, you know, they can't even get a record released if it's not a viral hit on TikTok. So,
right.
That's
you know, terrible.
Isn't that terrible? But that, you know, that's because, you know, they want us to, you know what I mean? You know where I'm going with this, Roger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's very, 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 very sad. You know, and it makes more work for, you know, the creator. Your job is just to create. You know, you sign to a record label to do what? For them to run your business and for you to create.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense to me, Roger. Really, you know, so shout out to all of my contemporaries who are on major labels but secretly miserable.
Yeah. So have you already, or have you, if you haven't, have you considered putting your music out on vinyl since vinyl's making a big resurgence these days?
Oh, Roger, I really do. I want to. I really do. But the problem is everybody is doing it. And these big major labels are squeezing us little guys out further and further and further and further into the dark, dude. There's like, I'm not joking. Wow. I'm not joking. Before I started this interview with you, I was talking to my assistant about that. And I was told that there is a 24-week waiting period.
Wow.
With a lot of the manufacturers.
Oh my God.
And that's because, you know, there's not that many plants anymore. You know that, Roger.
Right,
Come on.
Right.
You know that. So what happens when, you know, all the, you know, these big corporate managed, you know, record companies, you know what happens? They drive up the price, and if you can get it at all, you know. So I've just decided that, you know, the New Jack City 3 project that just came out, you know, in August, I sort of had a come to Jesus moment with this project because I was so frustrated. And I love my fans. I love all of you so much. I really do. And I don't want any of you to take this the wrong way. But I was so frustrated with Spotify. My beef is with Spotify. Okay. You know, I love Spotify. They've been very good to my career, but the royalty rate obviously is very, very low.
Low, yeah.
Very, very, very low. So I decided that I was not going to release any further projects on Spotify. And I was going to be traditional, and you know what I mean by traditional.
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten, you know, some kickback from some of my fans. What's the delay with the project coming to the? I don't want you to consume it for free. I just don't.
Right.
So, you know, The CD will be available for purchase December 12th and available on select platforms the same day, as any traditional movie studio would.
Right.
I am not doing anything different. I suppose I'm just reinventing the wheel.
Hey, but you're doing it on your own terms, and that's what counts.
I mean, but it's important. I think it's very, very important because, when you get to a certain point, and you're not making music for your friends and you're not doing, recording shows for your friends and your family anymore, that you be respected. And like any other creator, your work must be purchased. Am I wrong or am I right?
You're absolutely right.
I'm being completely 100% here.
Yeah.
And I love my fans, but I'm 30 years old. Okay. I didn't grow up in a world where I could pay $10 and listen to every damn thing that I wanted to. I had CDs. Okay. And I purchased those CDs. I went to the mall and I purchased those CDs. Okay.
That's right.
I did. I purchased those CDs. Okay. And I hate MP3s.
Yeah.
But I will buy an MP3 if I can't get a CD. I will, because I own it. It's important for me to say I own it. I have a big, big closet. And when I say closet, Roger, I do mean closet of DVDs. Okay.
Wow.
I do mean, well, inspiration, honey, must come from somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I got laser discs, I got beta tapes, I got VHS.
God! I love laser disc. Oh my gosh, I was just looking at one. They still cost, guys, listeners, they still cost a ton. They still cost a ton, okay? Like, these are gems that we are dropping on you guys during this interview here, and I hope you guys are listening. Laserdisc, yes, go, yes. My first experience with Laserdisc, I will never forget. I was sitting in my basement. My parents had this, when I do mean my foster parents, they had the most psychedelic basement in the world. Okay.
Oh, cool.
But it also had everything too. It had, and I do mean psychedelic walls. So with all colors that you can imagine. So we had pool tables, all that stuff, but they had laser disc. Okay. And they had the old school
where you got to flip them over to watch the second half of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I have that.
Yes. And the first thing that I watched was Dracula with Gary Oldman.
Nice.
Oh my God. And they also had the old school, what was it called? Entertainment Center.
Yes. Or a hi-fi.
Yes, and it was big, and every speaker, dude, was big. It was from floor to ceiling.
Yeah.
It was like a little palace down there. And I watched Dracula. I also watched Speed. You remember Speed?
Yes. Yeah.
With Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And then we also had, last but not least, The Watcher. That was another Keanu Reeves movie.
Oh, yeah.
The director of that film, his name escapes me, and it's so terrible because we are friends on Facebook. He's going to kill me. I shouldn't have even mentioned that. Maybe you'll edit that out. But if you don't, it's okay. But yeah, I just love all of that. I love Laserdisc. I love all of that. I actually, I was thinking about putting out the album on a disc drive because you'd have to go get a damn, disc player in order to actually play my album.
Right. Oh, Joe Charbanic was the director.
Yes, Joe. Yep. Hey, Joe, how are you? That's so awful. Oh my God. Hey, Joe. I'm so bad. Like I'm actually sitting here looking at him right now, like on my friends list. And he also actually directed earlier in his career when he first started. He was the director of Mary J. Blige's first videos.
Oh wow.
And me and Joe actually met in, I believe that was like 2007, 2008. I had placed an ad for something I don't remember, but we met and we became friends. We sort of lost contact over the years, but we're friends on Facebook. We just haven't talked in a while. But
right.
I hope he's doing well. I need to actually send him a message. Be like, hey, dude, you know what? We talked about The Watcher. And that movie was actually filmed here in Chicago too, right?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yes, it was actually, Chicago's just like, I mean, when it's not feeling post-apocalyptic, it is a wonderful place. Like, it is a wonderful place. It's just got that very ornate Gothic feeling. New York doesn't have that feeling. Chicago really is Gotham City. And
I was just going to say.
It really is when you look at it from an architectural, perspective.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, but it also can be a very scary place, at the same time. I always would joke with people and they say, oh, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And I say, well, I don't know what decade that was, honey, because if you can live in Chicago, we're called the second city for, a reason.
Right.
So if you can live here, you can live anywhere.
Right. Right. Oh my God. So, Dantès, what beyond Tales from the Sixth Dimension, which is coming out soon, what are the projects that you have coming up? Are you at liberty to tell us about?
So we're actually getting ready to start season 2. So I'm actually doing both of those shows at the same time. Isn't that crazy, Roger?
Wow.
It is. But Access Lakeshore Drive season 2 that premieres the week after Tales from the Sixth Dimension on the same radio station, WSBC 1240 AM at 7 p.m. And our first guest, I'm excited. We're very retro people, you and I, so I think you'll be excited as well. I'll tell you who that is when we get offline. So we're doing that, 7 episodes. 7's the lucky number for me. So season 1 was 7 episodes. Season 2 will be 7 episodes as well. Nice. Tales from the Sixth Dimension will run through December because it is just obviously for Halloween, because that coincides with, the single, from the album, from the first album. I love Halloween, so I totally have been preparing and anxious for this moment. Is it crazy to say that I'm more excited for the scripted series than I am for the talk show? Is that bad?
No, I don't think so.
Is that bad? I was telling somebody, I won't say names, but I was saying, I was like, oh God, yeah, I can't wait to do the talk show thing. And they were like, the scripted show. And they were like, oh, well, the other show is just so good. I'm like, no, but I want to do the sci-fi.
Right.
I want to do sci-fi. Like, I have to do the sci-fi. It's in my blood. I must do it.
Yeah.
So but that's it, which will probably keep me busy for a little while. But I'm very, very excited to share all of this with everybody. Tales from the Sixth Dimension, I'm very, very, very excited about. I was also just told some really, really cool news, Roger.
Okay.
So I just found out that I am the first African American to write, produce, direct, and star in his own science fiction radio series.
Wow. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing.
I didn't intentionally, obviously, start out to try and do anything remarkable like that, other than just do what it is that I like to do.
Right.
But that's really, really cool, right? I guess Black people don't like science fiction. Well, they think we don't, I guess. But, that's the cool part, though, right? About doing all this stuff, right? I think you can agree with me. You are able to do everything that you wanted to do, as a kid. And I don't know if you would agree with me, but I would believe that, you started doing some form of this or visualized some form of this as a child, if I'm not wrong, excuse me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in high school, I would watch Johnny Carson's monologues before going to sleep. Right. And I always envisioned myself kind of doing that sort of thing.
Yep. And everything just, it all comes, full circle. You are able to do, what it is that you set out to do. And how many people can actually say that, Roger? Right. Think about that. There are so many people, man, scared to live their dreams, dude. And all it takes is just a little faith. That's all it takes. And that's scary for people. It really is. But, we're blessed, you and I, because we get to do what it is that we like to do in our way, and show appreciation for things and people who may or may not get the credit that they deserve because it's retro. You know what I mean?
Right.
me doing, all of the Nintendo retro noises sounds, that's just me giving a nod to, what I grew up as, and me passing that on to, a newer generation, saying, hey, like, this is cool. Like, this is how we play video games, as a kid.
Right.
And incorporating all of those sounds and stuff. And like, even in your, the advertisements for your show, it still has like a very retro, retro feel too, so I think retro is not necessarily like a thing. I think it's a lifestyle. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to want to live in the fucking analog world. You really do.
Right.
You really do. Like, and I swear to you, Roger, like, and I have some pretty famous friends, and I won't even take their calls on social media. They will have to pick up the phone and call me.
Very nice.
And I will pick up the phone and call them. We can text message, we can do all of that, but it's important for me to be as analog as possible.
Right.
That's what being retro is. And retro, and people may think I'm lame, but I think it's cool.
I think it's very cool. That's what I wanted to tell you is, shortly after 1990, I started to notice our pop culture starting to go by the wayside, and people were starting to forget who Frank Sinatra was, who Fonzie was. All these things that were a major part of our pop culture were starting to drop off. And then when my kids were born in the early 2000s, I felt the need to bring them up to speed on all the cool stuff they missed out on. And
it's important.
Yeah. I mean, that.
And
first
thank
of all,
you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, it served them well through high school because they got all the teachers' references when all the other kids were like, huh?
Yeah.
And, that sort of is what inspired. I started this show as a cable access video show back in the day. And then eventually, I was able to transform it into a podcast and a larger platform. Because I feel like there's so many aspects to our pop culture that young people need to be reintroduced to. And that's one of the things we try to do here is I know young people aren't really listening to the show, but we're trying to help the older people introduce younger folk to the cool stuff that they missed out on,
Yeah. But no, seriously, but thank you for doing that. It's a very important service because, I always try and, with my nephews and stuff, because I don't have any kids yet. That was the first thing that they learned. They learned all of that stuff because, it's important for them because you can't have a conversation if you can't at least speak about the last 40 years with somebody.
Right.
In some capacity. And I mean, honestly, in some capacity.
Yeah.
In some capacity, some way, shape, or form, you're going to encounter somebody who is older than you. There's no getting around it. And and we live in a world that is powered by elder statesmen. So you cannot, and if you want to survive in this world, you have to know how to speak to them. And if they make a reference, you got to be able to understand the reference. Because
Right.
if you don't understand the reference, they're going to say, how old is this kid? And get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But if you could talk the talk,
you get the respect.
Yes, exactly.
You get the respect. And they, and I always remember them as when I was a child, they'd always say, oh, that boy's got a old soul and a young man's body. But I think that's cool. It's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Dantès, it's been awesome. I mean, I could have you on for hours. We could talk literally for hours. I think we're kindred spirits, and you've got an open invitation to come back whenever you want. Just drop me a line or pick up the phone. I'll email you my phone number, and you can come on and plug your next projects. Whatever you want, or if you just want to shoot the shit about pop culture, that'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, let me know, man. I'll definitely come back. You name the theme, and I'll be there.
Excellent. Now, I know you have a lot of web links. Is there, I'm going to put them all in the show notes, but is there one that you want to tell the listeners where they can find you online?
I mean, everybody has a website, right? Who updates their website 24/7, right? I mean, the Prince is very busy.
Right.
So Instagram.com/Dantès Alexander, right? Just keeps it very simple.
Excellent. Well, folks, you've been listening to the awesome Dantès Alexander, Prince Regent of EDM, and we hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for joining me, Dantès.
Thank you for having me, Roger.
Well, that was a fun interview, so be sure to check out Dante's music. The links are in the show notes. Now, folks, these outros are kind of getting super long because we got so much going on here at Haven Podcasts. So I'll just briefly remind you that we've got a live streaming monthly series called The Fright Lounge, in which we discuss all horror media for seasoned horror fans, as well as those of you who don't know if you want to get into horror. And we've also got a new podcast called The Cult Movie Lounge, in which award-winning blogger Robert Manell and I discuss all cult movies all the time. And don't forget, there's our sister